Thank you very much for everyone to be here. This is a very exceptional panel. We're going to be talking about fault lines in Latin America. We're going to deal with governance in Latin America. Usually, the meetings in Davos take place in English. This time, we're going to switch languages. Vamos a hacer esta sesión enteramente en español.
We're going to hold the session in Spanish, so I would like to thank Dr. Ilan Goldfajn for having accepted to present in Spanish. We know that his native language is Portuguese. He's the president of the Inter-American Development Bank. Thank you, President Dina Ercilia Boluarte, for being with us, and thank you, President José Raul Mulino Quintero. This is a complicated moment for Latin America for many reasons. One of them is, of course, a new government in the United States, which implies new challenges, very different challenges for a country such as Peru, for a country such as Panama. However, this is a time for opportunities, and we're going to discuss these opportunities together with the president of the Inter-American Development Bank. These are opportunities for investment, which are different in each one of the places where the Inter-American Development Bank operates. So we'll start, and I would like to start off with President Boluarte. Thank you for being with us. I would kindly ask you to be brief in your responses and the dialogue. I'm surprised, President Boluarte from Peru, that there's been a great instability. I think there is a problem of governance in Peru right now. But the curious thing, if I well remember, there have been 7 presidents in just a few years. However, Peru keeps on growing, and it has one of the fastest growth rates in Latin America. First of all, what's happening? What's going on with governance? Which are the rules that make it possible for so many presidents in such abrupt circumstances? Go ahead. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation, for being here at this forum in Davos. Indeed, the political situation in Peru has been, as you have said, in less than 6 years, we've had 6 presidents. As a matter of fact, in December the 7th, there's been a coup attempt, and I was a candidate as vice president. And after that failed coup, according to the Constitution and under the responsibility that beholds it as Democrat and citizen and vice president, I took over the presidency of my country. After that constitutional investiture, this is not conform to the failed coup, and the former president at the time ordered things such as this, things that are usually dictated by totalitarian figures. The public ministry should be open, the judiciary should be open, the justice board, and he ordered to arrest the country's main prosecutor. After this failed coup, there have been 500 violent riots trying to isolate Peru from the international community. Why was that? Because they started to act in a very organized way with preliminary preparedness. They started to set fires in the main airports to block roads in order to prevent food from coming from the inner areas to the capital cities and vice versa. They blocked roads that prevented ambulances with patients going to the hospitals. And not just that. In addition, they extorted people, asking them for money, and if they didn't pay money, they would arson their homes, and they did set fire on public offices, and indeed files, criminal files, especially the ones that the records that implicated the people that set forth. As a result, the President Boluarte called on the different players to sit around the table and start discussing what country we wanted. And the Constitutional Court of the Republic was the first to show up. But in this way, the national institutions were able to sit around the table. In addition, the ambassadors from the European Union, from the United States, from Canada, they started to call us. But I would like to make it clear here why the Latin American crisis, why is it a political crisis, and why in Peru. When I took over the presidencies, I had a call from the former president of Argentina to congratulate me and to wish me success in my term, Alberto Fernandez. But the progressists left, they launched a communique saying that they didn't recognize President Boluarte as president, and the greetings wishing the best to Boluarte, he was signing that communique together with three other presidents, and they're having a hard time to recognize President Boluarte in my position. But we're still firm in this lookout of the country. We had to start working in a united way to call on peace, and all the different confessions, the Catholics, the different confessions and congregations joined hands to send a message for peace in Peru. Peru is entering a smooth governance. We do have a problem, which is organized crime, transnational crime, which is not just something typical of Peru. This is a global issue. We know that organized crime is a global issue, and we're dealing with this because we have found a state government, the Ministry of Interior, with the necessary logistics. We are handing over uniforms, logistics, vans, motorcycles, so as to fight, because overnight we cannot do miracles and fight organized crimes like that. So Peru has recovered the economic, political, and social tranquility. So we must trust our country, not just for national investment, but also for international investment, which is the one that we're most interested in. Thank you, President Mulino. I know that security is really close to your heart. You're in charge of security in Panama. But a few days ago, there's a new president in the United States, Donald Trump, and he has made statements in the sense that the United States is going to take the Panama Canal back. I would like to know what your opinions are about this, especially regarding the accusations from Donald Trump regarding the management of the canal. Thank you, and I would like to greet my colleagues. Madam President, it's a pleasure to be here, and Mr. President from the IDB as well. Well, the day that I traveled here, I said at a communique what the posture of my government was. I refused everything that was said by Mr. Trump because it's false, it's not true, and secondly, because the Panama Canal is of Panama's country. The Panama is not a gift. It's not a gift. It after a bilateral treaty in 1903. It suffered 4 modifications during the past century, and it concluded with the last one in 1977 with Torrijos Carter, which was negotiated together with the U.S., and that includes the Canal Treaty that is obsolete, But we have the neutrality treaty, which is very important, and it's supported by more than 40 nations of the world. Panama keeps going. We are not being distracted by these type of statements. Over time, we have been partners and friends with the United States to a great degree, with major benefits, not just thanks to the canal, but we are the main users of the canal because we transport merchandise or goods from the canal to the United States. So, on the other hand, there's a major presence by transnational American banks and companies with very strong interests, American interests in Panama. We also have a historic relation. We use dollar as the current currency in our economy. And likewise, a sound banking system that interacts every day with major banks in the United States through transactions, through all kinds of international transactions. It's everything that we do is transactional. It's international. Panama is a democratic country. I have been elected president. Panama respects the Council of the Nations, and we abide by the rules, the international rules, and because we're convinced of that and constitutionally obliged. So a person cannot impose criteria in times that are quite far distant from Teddy Roosevelt's time. So I'm not worried about that because when it comes to the law, that's impossible. It's ill-informed, of course, and it makes us think that from this, let's call it crisis, we should look for opportunities to work on other issues that we're interested in working on with the states, such as security. We have a huge migration problem in the border with Colombia. We receive migrations from Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, and also faraway countries such as Nepal that are coming through these borders. That migration is quite controlled and reduced at 42% compared to the same time last year. I looked at the figures before coming here, and we have about 1,300 people that entered the country from the beginning of the month compared to last year that we had 24,000 people. We have closed the borders in 4 points, and we did that the first day of my government. So we're doing controlled flows. And those things are interesting for the U.S. And I said it many times, the border of the southern borders of America starts in Panama, not in Mexico, because none of these undocumented people aspires to stay in Panama or Costa Rica, or they aspire to reach the U.S. Certainly, this is a controlled activity financed by organized crimes, especially drug trafficking. There are dissonance from the former FARC, the Ilan, which is still active in Colombia, and the Golfo cartel that acts intrinsically with the migrants by exploiting them and forcing them to transport drugs in their rucksacks in order to do drug trafficking. So these situations must have us join forces with the United States, not against them.
Doctor.
Now I would like Dr. Goldfajn, in order to approach the government's topic related to security. I know that it's one of the main concerns of the IDB. What we should do regarding governments in order to face all the challenges regarding security. Well, good morning. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here in the WF, and it's a pleasure to speak in Spanish. Well, security is something that we have been hearing from the 26 countries in the whole region that are part of the IDB. From the 26 countries. Our studies, they say that the crime costs 3 to 4% of the IDB. So 80% of what we expend. we are talking about 180,000 of lives, and it's part of the organized crime. And what we can do, the organized crime is not only talking about the figures, it has to deal with the corruptions, with the communities, and also deals with the democracy. And what can we do with that? Well, here in the countries, we are getting together in an alliance in order to support justice with three axes, three main axes. So we called all the countries, and we had a meeting in December in Barbados with all the Caribbean countries. So we gathered 19 countries, and the last one that was present was Colombia, and the next one is Mexico. So we, Peru and Panama, are already present. So we have been working with several actors in three axes. The first one is the social one. We have to tackle the organized crime when they arrive in the communities, to the young people, the vulnerable people, so we can finance with a good practice. How can we defend these communities? The number two is the institutions. How can we reach the police bodies, the information, and also digitalizations, and how they are organized? This is very important. The state has to have the good institutions. And the third one is the finance, the legal finance. We have to follow the money. That's the oxygen of the organized crime. The organized crimes is translation, and it's very well organized. And what does it mean? That Latin America and the Caribbean has to be organized, and we have to have these trans-regional partnerships. It's not a problem of one country and the IDB. We cannot be isolated from that. In general, the multilateral banks, they will not work with security. And in the IDB has been always as a unity of security. So that's why we're working in that sense. This year, we have been investing on what we're talking about. We are working on projects on 5 times more higher on projects, on the amount of money, because we have to gather together, because security is something that affects the whole region. And it's in the DNA of the IDB. President Boluarte, I was suggesting the second question in my first question, and I would like to know how Peru have been doing with this instability, this political instability. You have been continue to grow. You have a 40.4% of growth. How do you do as a country to growth in that sense? With these political instability circumstances? Well, I do believe that the responsibility, the accountability as well, of all leaders and the presidents of the republics, when they inaugurate and in a way they have this mandate of leader in a country, we have to do it not thinking on that political T-shirt that we are wearing when we arrive in the government. We cannot believe that we are a left-winger or a right-winger. We have to feel that we are part of the country, and we have to work in that sense with the country. What Peru is doing, we have been very responsible in dealing with the economy. After the pandemics, we had all these climate changes that Peru was being affected. For instance, the Yaku topic, but we have been responsible on leading with our economy. With the economy, we, in a sense, we have not generated the debt or even increasing the public expense. For instance, in our government, we determined that the only way to generate the reactivation, the economic reactivation in which all population will have benefits. It will be through unblocking the projects that have been blocked for years, and we are generating occupation for the population. That's how we unblock these projects, and we have this vision as well that in the future the concern will be the food security, because we will lack of food in the world. And why is that? Because we have a lack of water due to climate change. And that is why we are opening our agricultural frontier, because we are opening Mahens, Chichapura, that will generate all these areas, and we will have this rural activity. Because so the Chancay port that we inaugurated in November with the president of China. We can be the main suppliers of asparagus and on some other products that are from Peru, and also the growth of these agricultural border. And that's why from the government we have been reactivating the economy in a responsible way, generating occupation, employment for people, and we have been also growing on that sense. And this year, 2024, we are the country that we have a lower inflation in the region. We have a 1.92% of inflation. That's what we have in the last years. And in the last 30 years, we have been having 1 digit of inflation. Our currency, the Peruvian sol, we have been strengthening our currencies. Then, for instance, citizens from Bolivia, they carry out the transactions in a Peruvian currency, and also in the Brazilian part, they also do these transactions in the Peruvian currency. And we are very proud of it, but we have to continue to create employment. And what I just said previously, this peace, this calm in the society. And from this, I would like to send a greeting to my population, because they have understood that we are growing and we are reducing the gap of poverty. Not only the monetary, also this vision, this multidimensional user, because we have to have more services, all the structure, infrastructures, electricity, health, etc. All that the society looks for their own development. They understood that we can reach that if we can work in the way that we are working, united, articulated with the regional governments, with the local governments, but at the same time with all the international and the foreigners. That's the only way that we will grow in peace, and we are looking for a horizon, which is the objective, that we can reduce poverty, and everyone with an inclusive way, with a face, we can grow economically. President Mulino, Panama also had a very successful story. You have very good figures, and I remember that the vocation of Panama is the connectivity. You have the canal for sure. And you also make the airport of Tucumán as a hub of international connections. You have been investing on connectivity, on digital connectivity. Can you please tell us what are the opportunities that you have in Panama? Oh, you're completely correct. Our country, it's a country with a devotion to service, and we have been expanded that to all the logistics system. The hub that you just mentioned, the airport, it's a reality of progress, actually. But we have been starting to deal with the airport, to the port, and also the cargo sector. And we have been, we had a meeting with all. Some of them are there present. They're already present in Panama, or they're working with the airport or with the canal. And our devotion mainly is on that sense. As Panama cannot think on transforming itself in an industrial country. We are a service country. With another notion that we didn't know before. For sure, the level of investment in structure had generated that. So the period of 2-digit figure. We have been dealing with the metro infrastructure, with the hospitals that had been abandoned. And now we are trying to recover all these projects on the health sector. And this also added value in employment, because we continue to hire people. So we are starting to build a train that will be integrating the whole country and the region, with the hope of having another form of transporting cargo between our regions. And we would like to connect with Central America to the ports and to the canal as well. So this train will be a reality, and we will be giving the first steps in order to conclude the financing of the project. On the other side, we have to be very concrete. Panama, it's a unique country in the region. And why is that? Because it has a geographic position that is strategical, because it converges the world in the different manifestations. We saw that during the pandemic, the effect for the world that had a high cost for the country, because we never blocked the canal. For sure, we had a reduced load for the canal, but we were open in all periods for all users of the world. It's an economy that many times it surprises us, because sometimes it's depressed and then suddenly it grows again. But what is sure is that it's affected by the same problems that affects Peru, Colombia, Central America. But it's different, because I do share what the president of ADB. Security, it's very, very expensive. In order to give all the technology to the institutions, and also the moral support, the drug trafficking, it's a threat, and it creates instability in the region. We have these clans, these cartels, the regionals. Our volume of drug, we have been, the business have been changed, have been mutated completely. So Panama, we have the illegal mining. Not having the same problems as Colombia and Peru or Ecuador, just to mention the countries that have the same problem. And for our peacefulness, mainly in which all the rural population, they start the illegal mining or the drug trafficking instead of doing the rural activities. And that is an aspect that is very important. So the state has to reach these people, and we are trying to reach these people. The government will never compete with all the quantities of money that generate the drug trafficking. If we stay on that, we will lose before starting. But we need the state to protect the vulnerable. We have regions in which nothing arrives as well. So we have to be the state. I don't know if the God's hand will reach them, but the state, yes, will have to reach them. And we have to deal with an homogeneous growth to reduce the disparity with the economy, that it's growing for some, and for others is not growing. So that's what we need to work with. A country that is growing, and the other one that is not growing, that has not even food to be nourished. So I am from the center, but I do not define my government accordingly to the ideology. What do I define my government is in order to work, and I will speak to whoever I need to. I am not squared. If I don't share the ideology, I will not share as well, because so I need to chat with everyone. We have a very important user of the canal, Peru, Chile, Ecuador. There are users, there are clients. We have a relationship with Peru. I love the country. But you are our clients, and we have to serve as clients, actually. So for us, we have these relationships, we have clients. United States is the main user, China is the second, and Japan. And we have after that, we have three countries that are very important that depend on our route for all the exports, or a big part of them.
Dr. Goldfajn, we already talked about the issue of security, what everything that deals with it, and what other opportunities for Latin America and the Caribbean in the areas of security. What should we be investing in order to achieve better progress? Thank you for your question, because we have to focus on the opportunities, which are the ones that are going to bring investment, employment, and poverty reduction. Everything goes through investment. Which are the opportunities? Well, let's start by clearing up that this is a democratic region. It's a region free of conflicts, even though there are certain exceptions. But this is a region with institutions and democracy. Latin America offers opportunities, and at the IDB, we are at a turning point. So the opportunities lie in the area of food security and critical minerals, but also the area of services, as was mentioned here. The supply chain that has to be reliable in the area of health or semiconductors, infrastructure, everything, all of those issues have to unify the region. It makes sense to invest in Latin America and the Caribbean. Each dollar that is invested that generates 26 cents back in terms of return for the U.S. If you invest in Central Americas, you get 40 cents back in exports, in terms of exports, which is much higher than the investment in other regions of the world. So that is a major aspect. And I would like to conclude by saying that a prosperous and stable Latin America contributes to a Western hemisphere that is strong, prosperous, and democratic as well. We have 10 minutes left, and I would like to ask one question to each one of you, so if we could respond in 2 minutes. President Boluarte, how do you see Peru 10, 20 years from now? What would you like to leave as legacy for Peru? Thank you for your question. After the successful move that we had, that after many APEC, we reached consensus. We have approved approximately 20 agreements, 20 deliverables, 11 ministerial declarations, and 8 political and technical instruments. When we look at this multilateral view that we have in our countries, we must strengthen the work in a multilateral, from a multilateral point of view. What would I like to leave 20 years from now? I'm going to end my government on the 28th of July in 2026, and we are going to leave tangible works. For instance, in 2024, we have delivered about more than 50-something schools with high educational technology, in which children not just learn the syllabus, including maths and reading comprehension, but they are even learning robotics, so that when they finish high school, they can begin their own undertakings and bring revenues to their families. We have found one program for scholarships for students that apply to higher studies for 5,000 students. But by the end of my term, we are going to have 20,000 vacancies, but we have broadened the scholarships for master's degrees and PhD degrees. What do we want? We are aware of the fact that knowledge is the only thing that can save peoples. We want our people to be educated, knowledgeable. We want professionals that want to work for the country, but above all, what we're doing from our government, we are making a government that doesn't work with corruption, doesn't deal with corruption. We said that the brand of our government is going to work with our clean hands. We, in the 2 years and 1 month that we have spent, this is the longest lived government since 2016, because we've had 6 presidents, and we're going to end our administration on July the 28th, 2026, because that is the way it should be in a democratic world. We have to respect the rule of law and the Constitution. And as I was saying, when we leave the government, we are going to leave investment portfolio for this year. We're going to have approximately $7 billion in terms of public-private investments. In 2024, we had more than $8 billion in such terms. We want a country that keeps on growing, but a country willing to become a worldwide power, such as the United States and China, because Peru has many things that other countries don't. We have our ocean, we have our copper, zinc, and lithium. We have human resources. We're going to leave a country with a very with the way paved towards economic growth. So, President Mulino, what kind of Panama would you like to see in 10 years? Well, first of all, I would like to see it. Secondly, I believe in, and I'm not saying that I'm going to stay in the government for 10 years. I would like to reach the end of my mandate. That is something that I can control. I want a country that is institutionally stronger. We need to work very hard on that, with institutions that really work. A more modern and digitalized world, in a world of bureaucracy, an economy that is oriented to international service and to logistics, supplemented by education that prepare the young generations for the careers and jobs for the futures, not the traditional ones only. We need a host of technical professions in order to face the challenges that Panama will have in the future. People who know how to repair ships, and people who know how to work in ship transport. Everyone talks about microconductors. That is very important. The Secretariat of Technology of Panama is really well focused, among many other programs, to that. And I am giving all the support that I can to them. And the future is there. For us, it's quite clear. In something that might sound romantic, but it is not, and very committed to it, is the integral reform of the state. The state, as it is today, doesn't work. It is worn out. This is a legal and political scheme that belongs to the past century. So we're beginning to provide an integral reform to the states that starts as of the next administration, as of 2029, that it serves as a basis so that our country has a different political legal framework, a modern country in terms of institutions, behavior, and development. Thank you, Dr. Goldfajn. We almost don't have any time left, but Brazilian says that Brazil is the country of the future, and it will always be. My question is, what can we do so that Latin America is not the region of tomorrow, that is the region of today? I think that Latin America and the Caribbean are the regions of today, but also the region of tomorrow. And I think that we need to take advantage of the opportunities that are there. So we are facing a turning point. There are opportunities both in the global context, where the region is a region with clean energies. It's a region with food. It's a region has more water than other regions. It's a region that can be really useful in terms of supply chain in this global context. But it is a region that is not profiting from it. And if we increase the and if we don't use that, we'll have more lost decades. We need to find these decades. In order to find these decades, we need to invest in institutions and rules of games and the rule of law. We need to work on decreasing insecurity. So we need to bet on more security in security and safety, not just for the region, but for to the whole hemisphere. I would like to thank all of you, Dina, Ercilia, Boluarte, President of Peru, Jose Raul Mulino, Quintero, President of Panama, Dr. Ilan Goldfajn, President of the Inter-American Development Bank. You have provided us with a vision that I think it's quite realistic. I think that the challenges posed by public safety, public security, you all mentioned it, and we all know it because we live in Latin America, but I think that we shouldn't let ourselves fall to the stereotypes. There are two countries here that had a very high rates, growth rates, in spite of the problems, and we will see with investments if the IDB that has been a promoter of investments and also invested in education. My name is Sergio Sarmiento, and I would like to thank you all for your presence here. Thank you for those of you who are following us through the different communication media and channels. Thank you to the World Economic Forum and TV Azteca for having made this program possible. This is all. Thank you very much.